It's great to be with you all and learning again with you. Thanks so much for joining us and being with the Rosicrucians. To begin our presentation dealing with inspiring encounters, we're going to first do a meditation to prepare ourselves. At this point, you should be seeing a particular work by Caspar David Friedrich. It's often goes by the title Woman Before the Rising Sun or Woman Before the Setting Sun. It dates from around 1818, oil and canvas. It's a relatively small work because it's only about 22 centimeters high or 8.6 inches high and width of about 30 centimeters or about 11.8 inches. It's a very inspiring work because you can see the woman or the female figure with her hands out, taking in the sun either rising or setting over the hill. There's a birth of light and a sense of attuning with the cosmic within. So just take some time enjoying this inspiring scene. In a way, it's an inspiring encounter for the woman, but also for us in appreciating Caspar David Friedrich's mystical art. And when you're ready, start to take a few deep breaths. Still with your eyes open, I suggest. And don't hold the inhalation or the exhalation. And as you take the breaths in a way, breathe in that deep vitalizing life force, but also the great light of the sun suggested by the painting. Suggestive also of the inner invisible sun as part of our true self. Now we've had this inspiring encounter with the painting. I invite you to close your eyes and we'll have a period of cosmic attunement. We'll follow the Rosicrucian book Liber 777. And later, Karen will post in the chat a reference for it. You can obtain your own copy, haven't already. It's also wonderful to reread it because as we learn and grow, these texts become all the more meaningful. We see all the more in it, just like our appreciation of life grows as we mature or evolve, to use a spiritual term. Continue to take some deep rhythmic breaths. If it's comfortable for you, use your nostrils predominantly, because that'll tend to force you in a good way to take deep breaths into your lungs. And you'll feel the cosmic essence or the vital life force tingling in your body, charging it, letting you grow in strength. And that vital life force has a great healing quality in our body. Now let us begin to make our ascent to the heights of the celestial sanctum. And we'll do that first by saying together, may the divine essence of the cosmic infuse my being and cleanse me of all impurities of mind and body. I may enter the celestial sanctum and attune in pureness and worthiness. So be it in truth, so mote it be. Now picture yourself rising up out of the room where you are, the geographic locale, if you're out of doors, rising up over the house or the immediate setting. Feel a degree of elation or excitement of being able to rise up like this. Rising up higher and higher over your neighborhood, and now even over the town or the city where you are. See the great harmony and order below you and the way the area is laid out. Take in the trees and other settings, or maybe a river. Rise higher and higher. Start to be up amongst the clouds, looking down on the particular province or state where you live. See the weather systems, the great landforms, the various browns and greens and blues and other colors. Nature's artistry. Rise up faster and faster again and see the great nation where you live. Take it all in. Use great inner strength to rise up. This is not the time for us to be passive. It will be when we reach the heights of the celestial sanctum. But just as past Grand Master Robert Daniels admonished us, use inner strength to rise up in our meditations. This rising up will also take us deep within our own nature at the same time by applying the law of correspondence, as above, so below. So as we move high, we'll also move deep within ourselves. Keep moving so that you actually take in now the continent where you live, ultimately the hemisphere, either the north or south hemisphere, depending where you are today. And ultimately, as you go faster and faster, take in the beautiful blue jewel of the earth. Enjoy with awe and wonder the great weather systems below, some spiraling, the oceans, their blue colors, and there's also a touch of greens, and the browns of the continents as well. And sense the earth rotating about its axis as part of the great system and order of the cosmos, which we Rosicrucians refer to the cosmic. In addition to that great system and order, then all the natural and spiritual laws, the cosmic means the universal intelligence back of this manifestation that we refer to as the universe. Move higher and higher and take in now the solar system and see not only the beautiful blue jewel of the earth, but the red planet Mars and the wonderful rings of Saturn and the huge planet of Jupiter, all revolving a great system and order above the great fiery ball of the sun, our local star. And rise up faster and faster beyond the solar system and start to sense the harmony of the spheres, the great celestial music as you zoom past other stars and other stellar phenomena like binary stars and pulsars and quasars and black holes, and even the great black hole at the center of our galaxy. Start to sense the great spiraling nature of the Milky Way galaxy and rise right past it, out from it, the great arm where we live, and look back at the great rotating and spiraling motion of the Milky Way galaxy. Just as the Earth rotates about its axis, so our Milky Way galaxy rotates about its center. Now look upward and travel faster and faster, far greater than the speed of light. Enjoy the exhilaration of the ascent and see nebulae and other galaxies and other myriad stellar phenomena we just described. Some of the galaxies are most wondrous in their colors and spiraling, and others are much more simpler in their apparent image. Continue to go faster and faster, way beyond the speed of light. Transcending space and time now. Increasingly take in the great system and order of the cosmos, just like it was for our Milky Way galaxy and the solar system. Sense the great harmony, great celestial and divine music, as the ancients would say, about our soul, not only our solar system and Milky Way galaxy, but all the galaxies. And now see the super clusters of galaxies in great collections. Travel faster and faster. Note the myriad phenomena throughout the galaxy. Many supernovae, black holes, and their great work from the construction and continuation of our galaxy. Travel faster and faster until you can sense the great revolving action of the universe itself, about a great cosmic axis spoken from ancient times by mystics and others. Sense this stupendous rotation of the universe. Picture the cosmic axis now. As all the myriad phenomena revolve about it, the axis stays still. As you rise up faster and faster, picture now the very midpoint of that cosmic axis. The still center of the cosmos and the still center of our being. And as you speed towards it, you get close, slow up. And as you land there, picture your celestial sanctum. Maybe a temple that's sacred to you, a Buddhist stupa that you've seen in your travels, a gurdwara, a synagogue, a cathedral or basilica or church, or some other sacred temple structure. Maybe some place that's particularly sacred to you, such as an inspiring place in nature, like a great lookout over a bay or an ocean, or high near a mountaintop with a great vista and expanse, suggestive of the cosmic consciousness within us and imbued throughout the cosmos. Fill in your celestial sanctum now. Take in the sights and sounds there. Feel the exhilaration. Feel the rejuvenation, strengthening us. Take this time as a mini retreat to let go of the cares of the day or of the past day or earlier in the past, in the distant past, or tomorrow, or in the near future or the distant future. Just be in the present, preparing and charging oneself. This time will help with whatever one needs to face in one's life, because we'll have the guidance of the master within that always knows what to do, and knows no stress or discomfort or ill health, and can show us to the way of those things of impermeability and great sense of wholeness and health. So you fill in the picture, the sights and sounds, or maybe incense, or you may picture there the convocation of a mystical nature given by the chief executive officers of the Rosicrucians, the imperator, the grand masters, or some other inspiring ritual there. Be seated beside other fratres or sorors or participants of others of like mind seekers. Be one with them. Enjoy this great experience as you fill in the sights and sounds and make it real. And when you've done that, dwell for a time in profound peace, or as the Rosicrucians say, peace profound. And let's have a period of stillness and quietude right now. Use this time as a time to be regenerated, realign with what's essential in life. Feel a great deal of well-being, with the life force pulsating throughout your being in the cosmos. You find your mind wandering when you're in the stillness, just lovingly and gently bring it back to the breath at the center of the cosmos, at the center of your being. In the stillness, to surrender your outer nature to your inner nature, your great guide and teacher always with you at all times. If there's any special message that this great teacher, this inner guide wishes to convey to you now, let the outer nature be still and receptive. It's time to dwell the heights of the celestial sanctum, applies the law of cosmic attunement. It's always our opportunity for an inspiring encounter with the divine within, which will then flood through the rest of our day, making it easier to do whatever we have to do this day and always, fulfilling our mission in life, and knowing what that is. Rosicrucians refer to this act as work and worship. Worship in the sense of communing with the divine within, and work in the sense that we're undertaking action within our being to perform this meditation period. Now let us undertake further spiritual operations of the work and worship of the Rosicrucian order. I invite you at this time, where we're attuned with the cosmic, the universal intelligence, to think of some touchstone experience in your life, some inspiring encounter you had with a person, maybe a teacher, maybe a parent, maybe an aunt or an uncle, a grandparent, some elder, maybe a child, or maybe some creature, a dog, deer in the woods, or some other inspiring scene like our painting. Just dwell on that experience that's been important in your life, one that you keep coming back to realign yourself to what's essential in life, to see what's true in life, to see things properly, to relieve the stresses of the day, to feel rejuvenated. Think back to that experience. It may have been many years ago in this incarnation, or even today, but just dwell on that experience now while you're at the heights of the celestial sanctum. See it all more deeply for the wonderful thing that it is, and how your inner self attracted you to have that experience, and how you can use the inner self to have even more such experiences. Just feel whatever there is to feel about it. If you feel tears welling up, great joy, just let them flow. The temple that is our body is so expressive, and it was designed so it can express all the inner spiritual qualities for us to realize and to convey to others. I think as you'll find as you think of that inspiring encounter, that it heightens and evokes the law of cosmic attunement even stronger and helps you dwell deep within yourself all the more. You may feel an action or swirling around in your heart. Feel yourself maturing even as we speak. Now to heighten and intensify and express the law of gratitude even further, let us think of someone or some creature that we may have had sustained contact in our life, or may have been brief, who was always loving, who was always supportive, asked little to nothing in return. They were so unconditional with us. Let us think of them now. And while we're at the heights of the celestial sanctum, no matter what form that person or being is now, you can reach them. Radiate love and well-being to them. Please express your gratitude to them for the great lesson, the great strengthening they gave you for your life as a touchstone experience for the rest of your life. Whether they've passed through transition or experienced the great initiation as a Rosicrucian state, all can be reached from the heights of the celestial sanctum. Just radiate your love and gratitude to them now. Thank them for their great service. Whether they knew the great work that they performed in and with and through you. If tears come to mind, just let them flow. The greatest sadness and the greatest joy are always two sides of the same coin, and they transcend to go into the unknowing state in the deep silence now. Now, fratres and sorors and participants, let us continue along this spirit, further work and worship of the Rosicrucian order and its spiritual operations. With a great sense of gratitude animating our beings now, let us give back as others have given to us through the work of the Silent Council in conjunction with the Council of Solace of the order. Those who have petitioned the Council of Solace for healing and upliftment in their lives. Our Grand Lodge, and possibly affiliated bodies if you're associated one, and all those you know who are in need of aid at this time, and all those frontline workers, and indeed all sentient beings in need throughout the cosmos. Let us continue to radiate love and well-being to all of them at the heights of the celestial sanctum, radiating out with great force from the center of the cosmos, from the center of our being. Just let it flow now. Use the infinite resources of the Master within you to do this great work. Not for the self-grandizement for the utter self, but to fulfill our life mission and the fulfillment of the lost service. Just as you experience the exhilaration of the ascent to the celestial sanctum, I think now you may feel the exhilaration of the radiation of love and well-being from the center of your being, your heart and your mind. Just let it flow with increasing speed and force and rapidity. I think you'll find too, as it reaches those in need, the radiations will speed up. And there'll be an increasing tonic effect within your own being, for as we give, so shall we receive, by the law of karma and the law of compensation. Just let the love and well-being flow. You may be astonished at how this is happening, but just let it be. We'll analyze later. Just let it unfold. And once you feel that the love and well-being is radiating without your having to consciously send it forth, just let it flow and continue to dwell in the deep stillness at the heights of the celestial sanctum, at the center of your being, connected with all. If you find your mind wandering, just lovingly and gently bring it back to the breath. Your place in the celestial sanctum at the center of your being. Be receptive to whatever impressions may come forth from deep within. Now, while the radiations of love and well-being have continued to go forth from the center of your being, we'll conclude this formal period of the work, the Silent Council, in conjunction with the Council of Solace, by saying, if it pleases the cosmic, it is done. So be it in truth. So mote it be. But let us still dwell a while longer at the heights of the celestial sanctum in this meditation period. Now we'll formally conclude this period of cosmic attunement with the celestial sanctum of the cosmic. And I invite you to express your thankfulness and gratitude for our birthright of being able to ascend and attune with the cosmic through the celestial sanctum. And for the wonderful opportunity to be of service by invoking the law of service to the Silent Council in conjunction with the Council of Solace. And now let us begin our descent from the heights of the celestial sanctum. And faster again, enjoying the exhilaration of the descent. But knowing this period of cosmic attunement will always be with us, and we can always draw on. And the radiations of love and well-being will always continue from us, deep within us. As we speed by the superclusters of the galaxies, and the various galaxies and wondrous stellar phenomena, the pulsars, quasars, see the nebulae, and ultimately the Milky Way galaxy with its great spiraling arms, and go back in through arm where our home is, past all the stellar phenomena, back seeing our solar system, fiery ball of the sun and the beautiful blue jewel of the earth, and come back to the hemisphere where you left off, the continent, the nation, your province or state, your city or specific geographic location. Come back into your home or where you were, see the room. And before we open our eyes, let us say together, may the God of my heart sanctify this period of attunement with the celestial sanctum. So be it in truth, so mote it be. And come back now into your room, in your chair, or however you're situated. And when you're ready, you may wish to open your eyes and stretch and be ready with further work and worship of the order. Thank you. His As mentioned earlier, our presentation today is Inspiring Encounters. Each of us has had inspiring encounters. There are touchstone experiences that help guide us for the rest of our life. These encounters can take a variety of forms. We'll explore some of these formative experiences and their relationship to our deepest nature and how Rosicrucian laws and principles are being applied. And in fact, we've already had some firsthand experience of that with our period of attunement with the celestial sanctum today. Now, it's important to be constantly learning lessons in life. We must be on the lookout for those lessons. Each day, in fact, is full of lessons. If we have the eyes to see and the ears to hear, that inner spiritual nature is vigilant and the outer nature works with it as a co-partner. Now, this makes for a very highly meaningful way of life, especially when untruths cease to fascinate us and we realize that they're no longer of value. Then we're particularly ready to learn anew. Because often to take on a new lesson, you must let go of an old lesson. The Rosicrucians have a very important way of describing this to us, which I'll show you by sharing the slides again. You should be seeing now a diagram based on the Rosicrucian schematic diagram of mental processes. Okay. I'll mention some things about it, but this is one of the diagrams, even in an even more elaborate form, as part of the highly systematic teachings of the Rosicrucian order and work for the mastery of life, to live in harmony with all. Cosmic consciousness and the cosmic pervades all these different forms of consciousness. We have the objective consciousness through our senses, for example, the sight, the hearing, the smelling, tasting, and feeling. But we have the subjective consciousness where we can work with our reasoning capacities, both inductive and deductive, and when the objective senses are further interpreted. But there's also the subconscious mind where we dream and where laws are set up. And this is what I particularly want to sense, is that habits in our life are laws, and often in lessons, we have to change the habit in the subconscious as part of the old lesson into a new lesson that is a new law that is then established in power and strength in our lives. And that way we get the skeletons out of our closet, so to speak, and transform and transmute ourselves with new laws and new lessons that are in the subconscious. You know, when we have inspiring encounters, if they're really ones that have a great, tremendous deep value that lasts with us and are unforgettable, they will have come from the cosmic. Now it's for the outer mind to understand, where the outer mind here, subjective and objective conscious, for it to understand, it needs impressions clothed in things that it understands, like the sights and sounds associated with subject consciousness, or things that the subconscious mind has studied. It studied the sciences, the arts, or poetry, or music. It will use those and those memories that are set in the subconscious to clothe those deep, higher vibrations of the cosmic keyboard. The Rosicrucians talk about being surrounded and within a tremendous sea of vibrations. And it's like a key on a keyboard and a piano, but it extends off tremendously high rates of vibrations of octaves. And part of the way of becoming a mature human being is to be a great pianist who can play that great cosmic keyboard for mastery in living. So the outer mind needs those impressions that we have a storehouse in our memory or are familiar with to clothe those impressions. That's why someone, for example, who may have been raised in a Buddhist tradition will often have their cosmic impressions clothed in something that's associated with the Buddhism, such as a Bodhisattva guide or a particular teaching. And possibly the language that they're associated with, their first language, was the person's a Christian, may see a saint if that's particularly their tradition, or the master Yeshua. It may ultimately be the same inner deep vibration and universal intelligence, but they're going to be clothed differently so the outer mind can understand. Keep that in mind, because this gives us a much deeper understanding about how inspiring encounters come about. And when we do have inspiring encounters in our life, it's often because the master within has reached out to others through the one soul that's within us. So bear this diagram in mind in living in your lessons, because it explains much which is otherwise inexplicable in our lives. Now, it's important not only getting the lesson in our life, but the correct lesson. And some telltale signs that we've got the correct lesson is that it will be enriching, ennobling, increasing our capacity to love and to be of service. If the lesson is tending to do those things, then one can be well assured that one is on track and got the right lesson. Now, inspiring encounters can be with others, as I've mentioned, or other creatures. It could be with a dog or an animal we see in the woods, various creations of nature or various creations by persons such as Caspar David Friedrich's painting that we saw at the beginning of this session, or with the master within. In fact, as I've mentioned, all deeply inspiring encounters will be with the master within. The rest, in a way, is the way it's been clothed in material reality for the outer self to understand. And that way the outer self can grasp the lesson, not only the other inner consciousness grasp the lesson. You'll see sometimes that in meditation, an important conveyance may come to us, but may not bubble all the way up through that diagram of the cosmic keyboard. It may be something that someone sees or does later that reminds us of that. And we may even realize, when I was meditating this morning, that was the impression that came to me, but now it's going all the way through. And that's where culture and language and related things are very important. If we understand our language deeply, and often this will be our first language we learn about others as well, they'll typically have mystical clues in them, because that was partly how they were informed going back in the ancient times and how they were developed in the original angelic languages, as some traditions say. Now, another way that this matter can be expressed is if the experience, and more crucially, its interpretation, because fundamentally our lives is our interpretation. As we mature, our interpretation becomes wiser and more truthful. These experiences draw us back to remember our original home, original homeland. In other words, we have the rendezvous with eternity. Now, when this happens, two important actions are taking place in inspiring encounters of a deep nature. The first is that mystics refer to as deification. And the other is the mystical marriage or unification. Both are aspects of the culmination of the spiritual path, which is mystical union, which is a state always deep within us. It's just a matter of us increasingly realizing it, making it a reality. Now, deification is not an act of self-aggrandizement. Quite the opposite. It is an act of great humility and surrender. As the outer nature and personality increasingly lets go and surrenders, just like we did at the heights of the celestial sanctum. It allows for our outer nature to be soaked like a sponge with the infinite, the universal intelligence, not only briefly, but increasingly as a way of life. And thereby the outer self is greatly enriched and strengthened to act on the guidance of the master within. Now, there's other aspect I mentioned of that of mystical marriage or unification. Draws the outer nature or personality to be increasingly at one with the one, as the great mystic Plotinus would say. The sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems and all the psychic centers that we learn about in our Rosicrucian studies work in harmony. This allows us to be increasingly sensitive to all the octaves of the cosmic keyboard. The soul personality, that is what is truly evolving within us, can be thought of as a mirror reflecting the one soul, the one soul that connects all of us together. And as we evolve, this mirror becomes more and more polished and can thereby increasingly reflect the divine. This is what these inspiring encounters are doing. So in a way, this is another way of looking at what we experience on the mystical path. I'll give some examples of some inspiring experiences before Karen posts some of the references for you for the work today. You know, when you look back through antiquity, there's many recounted inspiring encounters. One of them is associated with the mystic master Apollonius of Tyana, which I know many of you are familiar with. One of the great sources of learning about him is the story, highly symbolic in many ways, by Philostratus from ancient times. Since translated in English, it's the life of Apollonius of Tyana. And Tyana, as a young person, went on a great pilgrimage of a spiritual nature, traveling through the West and the East to learn great lessons, similar to what Pythagoras did. And Apollonius of Tyana is a contemporary with the master Yeshua. And many of the things that happened later in life to Apollonius parallels those things that are recounted that the master Yeshua did in the Gospels, for example, the healing. Now, when Apollonius was on his great journey, he heard about the Indian Brahmins. He came into India and he sought out particular ones that were well known for their wisdom. And they lived on a great hill. And when he came to them, he found that they already knew him perfectly. They knew where he can come from. They knew the thoughts that were strongly in his mind without having to speak. And he was able to stay and study with them. And he said this about them later on his return. I saw Indian Brahmins living upon the earth, and yet not on it, and fortified without fortifications, possessing nothing, yet having the riches of all people. You see, through Apollonius' encounter with the Brahmin sages, he came more deeply into what it is to be a human being and more fully matured. And those experiences stayed with him, and he then passed them on. In a way, some of the Indian Brahmins became his spiritual parents, just like he became a spiritual parent to his disciples later. Let me mention a few more inspiring encounters, and you can think of some that are in your own life that uses touchstone experiences. Another one that's very inspiring, that sometimes these come at troubling times in our lives to realign us, to give us strength to continue. They also remind us of those inspiring experiences to give us strength to continue whatever's going on in our life. There was a time, for example, when the great mystic, John of the Cross, was imprisoned. He was in great suffering. But it happened that just outside his prison cell, there was a place people could walk by. And one night, there was a person singing a particularly poignant song in Spanish, which had to do with dealing with all the troubles and trials in our life and what to do. And the song poignantly said, to let go, to surrender. And this poignant song struck deep into John of the Cross's heart, and he felt a tremendous upliftment, just like we went up into the cosmic and in the celestial sanctum. And that was a touchstone experience for the rest of his life. And he wrote about it and emulated it in his life. And one way that emulation took place was through his wonderful poetry, the different stages of the mystical path. You know, another inspiring encounter was Dr. Maurice Buck, the psychiatrist and medical doctor from the United States and Canada, when he met the great poet of the 19th century, United States, Walt Whitman. Walt Whitman's work is quite remarkable. I know many of you are very familiar with a set of poems, The Leaves of Grass, that are written from the cosmic perspective, with the cosmic sense in mind, if you take them in that way. Dr. Maurice Buck had many inspiring experiences with Walt Whitman. But one of the things that he noted, many others noted, for example, about Walt Whitman, is Walt Whitman loved to go for walks each day in nature. And it was apparent to anyone who observed him that he was getting a tremendous satisfaction from seeing blades of grass, from seeing snails, from seeing the smallest creatures. And he had a deep sense, as the cosmic sense will give, this tremendous sense of the life force of the cosmic essence in all things. And also the vividness of colors. And this was part of how he could write so vividly on things. And it was something that often people would come to Walt Whitman and you just have an everyday conversation, but they leave them feeling uplifted in a way Walt Whitman indirectly had taken them through his great vibrations radiating from his being up into that in their own, to the degree the person was prepared. You know, another inspiring encounter was by the writer and poet John G. Neighart, earlier in the 20th century. On his first encounter with a holy person and shaman, powerful medicine person, Black Elk, the Sioux. Black Elk's life spanned both the 19th century and the 20th century. He saw tremendous changes for indigenous peoples, the changes on this continent of North America, Turtle Island, as some indigenous people say. Now, John Neighart wanted to have contact with Black Elk. And he could write down some of Black Elk's spiritual experiences and teachings of a traditional nature. And John Neighart met with some Sioux people that he had contact with in the reservation, and they were willing to take him to Black Elk. And when they drove there, they hadn't told Black Elk ahead that they were coming. Nevertheless, when they arrived, Black Elk was out waiting for them. It felt deeply within that they were coming. And when John Neighart approached him and told him some of what he was doing, Black Elk was silent. He stood beside John, and he felt deeply John's nature. You see, Black Elk, when he was a young person at 9 years of age, had been drawn up into a great vision and saw the great hoop of his nature, his nation. And he saw the great system and order of the creation. And they felt that this is a deep mission to bring this to others, particularly the strengthening of his people. And he could sense through that experience, he could sense John's nature, and that he had integrity, and that he could follow through in passing on these teachings. And this is one of the great gifts they both gave to us through these books. This type of experience reminds me of an experience of Ralph M. Lewis when he was imperator. When he first encountered in a restaurant for a meeting, Tsar Harmonius, who was the imperator of the the Rosicrucians in Europe in its earlier form. And through the law of attunement, the law of cosmic attunement, he saw Tsar Harmonius, the imperator of the Rose-Croix, as a radiant being in light. And that inspired him for the rest of his life. See truly more what it was to be a leader and an imperator, but also a sovereign within our own right, in our own lives. These types of encounters often come in our own backyard or own lands. I think now, for example, what's called the Dreamer's Rock or the Hallowed Rock here in Ontario. It's one of the sacred sites of North America. It's a great quartzite rock hill. It shines beautifully white during the bright sunlight of the day. And it's a traditional place for vision quests for the Ojibwe within the Anishinaabe, indigenous peoples, and it has been for centuries. It's interesting that Paul Kane, who was a 19th century artist, traveled north from Toronto. He met at a great meeting place, one who had done vision quests, whose name was Sha'awa Na Sowe, was known as a renowned medicine man within the Anishinaabe. Sha'awa Sowe had had a very tense, challenging experience where he had done something very cruel to two young people out of jealousy. Because of the consequences of that, the shaman went back in remorse, said he would dedicate his life to healing and spiritual matters. And one of the great ways this is done through those who are prepared in the Ojibwe Anishinaabe is through the Medawiwan, or the Society of the Good-Hearted Ones. They have a traditional initiation through lodges where certain private teachings are passed on, just as done in esoteric orders of the world. When Paul Kane, the artist, saw Shanawasi, he felt it was like he was seeing a human being for the first time. He's never seen such nobility of character conveyed, and he actually did an artwork of it that we can see to this day. But he always remembered that inspiring encounter with a shaman. Sometimes it's inspiring too, the experiences that we have with others. You know, once I was very fortunate to give an RSUI, a Rosicrucian University international class at Johann Kelpius Lodge back in November of 2010. It was wonderfully organized by the group. Then I know, for example, Sora Peg, who often joins us for these meetings, was one of the workers for that event. And we had time to go to the Boston Museum of Fine Arts as part of the class and look at the theme of entering the Temple of Mastership. And I remember when I was leaving to depart, I was waiting at the Logan International Airport in Boston. And then I could reflect back on all the students in the class and all the things that they said and that were done, the various things to get ready, the various preparations for the outer nature. And my outer nature just surrendered and went deep in within. And I had a very deep experience of what the mystic master, Jacob Bohm, describes as us being as a being of light. I felt myself as a being of light. There was a tremendous sense of radiation of love and well-being for myself. In a way, it felt like who I'd truly been all the time. It's just a matter of increasingly realizing it and showing it. And when we have an experience like that, it's good not to quickly try to analyze it, but just keep surrendering. Let it take its course, which I work to do. And then as that sense of great energy and well-being and love for all humanity radiated from the airport, the nature went deeper and deeper into the cosmic state of consciousness, beyond words, beyond thoughts, and one was one with the one and felt a tremendous love for all persons. I was greatly grateful for the order and Johann Kelpius Lodge for assisting in that. So often I invite you, to think of your inspiring encounters in your life, things that you've often may not remember often, but come back to them. They'll rekindle that sense of what's essential in one's life. When one's having a challenging experience, remember that and see things truthfully and know all the better how to go forward. And one won't feel overwhelmed. One will feel strengthened, and one can feel a degree of satisfaction to handle whatever is necessary. We have an adage in our order: when we're well prepared to dare to do, and the strength will be given unto us. Ever keep this in mind as part of the purpose of our inspiring encounters. So I thank you for listening and being with the Rosicrucians today.